This is the Builders Business Success Podcast for builders who want to attract more quality clients who aren't price-focused, eliminate cash flow pressure, and get paid for every quote. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey, welcome to another Builders Business Success Podcast episode. If you've never watched or listened to the podcast, its purpose is to look at the common and costly problems that pretty much every builder experiences and offer solutions and guidance to be able to get rid of those issues and fundamentally create a business that gives you more choice. This is my underarching philosophy pretty much about any business, but particularly a building business, is it's simply a platform that allows you, or should allow you, to have more financial freedom than you had if you were working for somebody, and definitely more time freedom to be able to enjoy it. Now, speak to most small business owners, builders included, that's kind of rare. Someone who has a business that really delivers financial success, but more importantly, allows them the time freedom to enjoy any financial success that they may have had. That's kind of a rare thing. These are the sorts of issues that we address in the Builders Business Success Podcast. So let's get on with the show. So in this show, I'm talking to a very cool dude from Western Australia. His name's Andy Kearns. He's one of our Builders Business Blackbelt members. And the reason that I thought we'd talk to Andy is to give you guys out there listening to this a bit of an insight into the journey that he has made and the issues that caused him to seek us out and the challenges that he's had along the way, because it's not as simple and easy and wonderful as just getting some business coaching and everything's all right. That it just doesn't happen. We try to make it as fun and as exciting and effective as we possibly can, but there are issues, and we wanted to talk about those sorts of things. And instead of getting an expert to talk on a specific thing like we often do in the podcast, I wanted to speak to a real builder with real struggles in the hope that you can really relate to Andy's journey and hopefully give you some great ideas on what you can be doing different as well. So let's listen in to my conversation with Andy Kearns. One of the first questions I asked was, what was your story? How did you get here? I love the answers to these sorts of questions to see how people arrived at starting their own business.
I had a maintenance business before this, but I just to see what business was like until I got Perway Construction.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we wanted to grow, so we wanted to get builder license and stuff to open up more doors.
All right.
And
it is a really interesting question about starting your own business as opposed to being an employee, and it's really interesting to see what people offer as a reason as to why they started their business and how it works out. So I asked Andy that question.
I think everyone has an idea of thinking, this is going to be cruisy, we're going to have more free time, we're going to have more money in the bank, obviously, and that did not go that way. We actually worked more hours, less pay, obviously, because you're trying to figure it all out. And then it's not until you start getting the systems right, then you're like, okay, and then putting profit on it, that you actually find out, okay, you can make a business out of this. But not easy at the start when you have no direction.
Most business people have an innate belief that they should be able to build their business all by themselves, and particularly males. And they find it quite difficult to ask for help. And so one of the really interesting questions I find is before you found us, what were the sort of things you were getting involved in? What were the sort of things that you were doing in an attempt to build your business?
Obviously, when that happens, you're trying to get more work. So that means you're running out to meet more clients and you're quoting more. And we've done a lot of quoting. Last year alone, I think I wasted over 200-300 hours just running around trying to get jobs and get the quotes out, because without quotes coming in and leads coming in and not converting, I always thought the more leads you get, or the more quoting you get, is the more jobs you get. That's definitely not the case. Probably worked a lot harder in the last 2 years and not seeing the results it's one of these things that you can see why builders go bust in the first few years.
I always like to find out how we were found. So that's one of the questions that I asked Andy. How did you end up finding us?
It was going back in March, I think it was. March or April. She found you and she said, we're going to go on a Zoom call and a guy to see what's about to be a better builder. And I was very skeptical at the start. I was like, I don't know. I said, let's see if we can do it ourselves. And I jumped on a Zoom call with you, and after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I actually knew. I was like, okay, this side's actually switched on here. And then we started talking about getting paid for proposals or paid for quotes. First, I thought this could never happen. And then I think after the 40 minutes, 50 minutes on the Zoom call, I was like, yeah, I've nothing to lose here. Let's give this a shot. It has been a game changer for us anyways, because we are getting better leads. We don't run out anymore for people. We're putting profit now in jobs. It's a nice thing to be saying.
What were the things that you were skeptical about?
First, I didn't know who you were. Louise put me into it. Have to say that. And then I was like, I've done this before. I've done the self-development. I've paid for a person in a different country a few years back, trying to get better on the business side. I always thought I wanted to do an online e-commerce store. Tried that about 4 or 5 years ago. Didn't work. Put my hands up. And then I was like, okay, go back to what I know at, which is the building game. And what are we now? We're November. I've been with you since, I think, April. And myself and my wife are very happy, because we have a nice process now. We don't run out for people. They come to us, and we put them through this, the whole process of the 3-question loop. And we're trying to be honest with people. And when you come across the table and you have 2 clients sitting in the room with you, which are frustrated with the building game, and you're trying to teach them of how this should be going, people are loving it at this stage with us. So I can't wait for 2021. Should be good.
Yeah, well, 2020 was a bit of a shit.
Yeah, it was, but I have to say, if 2020 didn't happen, Mick, I don't think I'd be in your course.
There's the old saying, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So I asked Andy, what were you thinking when we had our first conversation and Andy and Louise decided to sign up for our initial program, which is Blueprint to Black Belt. It's a 12-week program. What was Andy's thoughts?
Oh, well, obviously, again, I was very skeptical, because I was like, okay, what's this all about? Because after the Zoom call, I was like, okay, let's see what's going to happen on this. And then you're like, we were excited because myself and Louise my wife was in probably a bit of a low time. It was at the start of COVID, and we're like, if we're going to do this, we're going to give this 110%. And I'm very lucky to have Louise beside me, because it must be very hard for builders out there without the backup. And the 2 of us literally jumped onto it straight away, and we done that 12-week blueprint course, and we gave that 110%, and we actually seen results happen very, very quickly, because the both of us started changing the mindsets. Yeah, I was very skeptical at the start, I have to say that, but when you start doing it and doing it continuously, I think, what is it? Is it 66 days, the habit? After 66 days, the habit just continues. And we do try every day to do the video, the motivations, and we might miss a weekend, but you know what? We're still on the same mindset, and we're still going strong. Yep. since April.
As I said, it's not always rainbows and unicorns when you jump onto any sort of coaching program. You can have some initial wins, but then there are problems. There are always problems. And one of the things that I tell our guys in Black Belt, the best thing we can hope for is in the future to just have a better quality of problem. We're always going to have problems. We just want a better quality of problem. So I asked Andy, when he first started Blueprint with Louise, what were the struggles? What were the things that you were challenged by?
I'm a carpenter by trade. And for me to think outside the box and visualize higher than anything I ever thought, I thought that could never happen. I was like, okay, I can't think of that. That sounds very stupid. I said, if I visualize that, I said, people might think of, but it's not about that. It's about getting my mind into a bigger state of mind. And it's like visualizing, saying it's everything there, it's going to happen. And we have to be honest, Mick, it hasn't been an easy road even since that. Like, things, you do get your knocks, like you said, you get your peaks and then you get your knockdowns. But then there's other days, then everything's streaming and it's like, wow, it's working. And like I said, it's no construction guy goes out there trying to be a good businessman. We are good with our hands, we're good with our heads. That's what we do. I'm definitely good with my hands and stuff like that. But when it comes to mindset and stuff, it's like, this is a bit weird at the start. But when you start writing out mad goals and bigger pictures, it's like, wow. Then things start to happen when you don't realize it. And you're like, wow.
So some years ago, I decided to move from this one-on-one coaching model to a group coaching model. So when we are doing any sort of trainings or anything like that, even coaching calls, individual coaching calls, we open it up to the rest of the gang, whoever wants to show up for it. So it always ends up being a group conversation. In fact, every day we have a momentum call where a bunch of our black belt members jump on that momentum call. So I asked Andy what he had found was the benefit or the difference of being involved in a group as far as a coaching group versus a one-on-one coaching arrangement.
We actually got a good vibe from day one, and everyone took us under the wing, and we're probably the only Irish person in the group. Everyone had to tell us to slow down a bit. We're talking a bit too fast. And straight away I said to Louise, this is actually a good group. And they're like a little family now. And I've talked to the majority of them on the phone. Some of them have given me some great advice. Bill and Cherie, Wayno, all them guys, big shout out. Andrew Quad, Joel. They're like little family now. And I reach out to them whenever I can. And there's some other great characters in there. And not even just characters, good people for me to learn off, because I'm so fresh in this game. And to learn from all their mistakes and lessons is good for us. But I have to say, there's some experienced people in this group that you would never think that they're in this coaching group. You always think they're like young builders like myself, but going back to it, no one teaches us to run the business the way it should be. So I am looking forward to next year, because this year I'm just, as you can tell, everyone's just like, we're open 2020. We are. It's funny. Like, I just can't wait for Christmas. I just can't wait for the break for the family. That little group that you have, Mick, we're very selective. I've been in that group now for a long time, and not many have come in because you don't let in anyone. You have to go through that process, as you're going to be accepted if you do the work in the 12 weeks. You can't just do the 12-week blueprint and think that you're going to get into that. And that's why myself and Louise said, let's give this a good go to get into that. So we're very happy to be there, Mick. I have to say that. Yeah, I can't thank you enough, to be honest.
If you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep on getting what you've been getting. That's a quote from, I think, Zig Ziglar, who's unfortunately no longer with us. So I like to ask people what they're doing differently. So I asked Andy what he is doing differently now that's made a big difference.
I don't run out anymore. I don't run to every client. When I'm out having a chat in a bar or someone, I tell our process, and people look at me and think I'm crazy, because they haven't got the mindset yet of it. But eventually, I believe every builder, every tradie will have this process, and they'll do this kind of procedure, because the free quotes, you think you're getting it for free, but you're not down the line. And we like to spend a lot of time behind the scenes first, building all the wish list, the wants and everything with the clients. So then I can sit down and do that detailed proposal. And obviously, we tell the client during the meeting, there's a paid proposal for this. No one has doubted us yet. No one has ever came across going, no one says, no, I'm not paying, because they see the value. And before, I used to run out and try free quoting and trying to get as much down as we can and send out 10 quotes a week, hopefully to get one back. I used to be afraid of calling up the client and asking them the work after the quotas went out. And now I have no problem ringing up after a few days. How are you going? Listening. And if there's a problem with the issue, I'll come back out. If not, I'll resolve it on the phone. And before, I never used to do that. I honestly never used to do that. I know I'm getting stronger with this, and that was probably my weak point. And even sitting down with the clients in front of the office, I actually enjoy that, because if we are not connecting straight away in the meeting, I'm not going to end up working for this. We're going to refer them to someone else, because if we're not connecting, and I'm 10 weeks in your house minimum, and we're not feeling connected, it's going to be hard. So before, I used to do that, Mick. I used to run to them clients, and now I'm like, okay, if you're not the right fit, we're going to pass you on to someone else in a nice way, because we believe we're working with great clients.
There are always going to be challenges. So I wanted to know from Andy, what are his biggest challenges?
Well, obviously, I'm lucky I have the wife on my right-hand side, because I could have probably still went out and tried, because I was very skeptical, Mick. I have to say that, because mindset, it took me a long time to figure that it's only the last few renovations now, the 4 or 5 that went through, and it was very smooth. Everyone's loving that journey. at the start, I'm still probably going out and still trying that of, okay, I'll go out there and quote that in now and send a detailed proposal. But now it's literally, I'll get on the phone with your Louise after the questionnaire, and I will ask all these questions to see if you can go to the next stage. And it's not, of course, we have to judge over the phone and ask all these questions, because if we don't, I'm wasting 2 hours of my life driving out to this client, I could waste another hour. So when you add up all them hours, 2 to 3 hours on every client, without even going through that process, last year you can see how I wasted 300 hours of my life trying to win jobs. Mindset, we're stubborn. Us builders, us construction workers, we're the most stubbornest people out there, because we're like, no, we'll do it for free and we'll win a job down the line. So if you do 10 quotes, you win one, which I think now that's not the case for us. If I brought you to my office, Mick, all the good quality clients that's going through the process for 2021, if we win 4 or 5 of them jobs, that's hopefully per way sorted for the next year. So comparing to running around for all these people, we have actually good clients that's going through the process of getting counselling and approvals. And if we get them, I'm looking forward to next year.
I know many of you watching the podcast would probably be going, should I, shouldn't I? Can I afford it? Can't I afford it? All of these sorts of things. So I wanted to ask Andy what he would say to you. If you're on the fence, if you've got some sort of desire to find out whether you should get into something like this, look at our blueprint program or whatever, I asked Andy, what would you say to somebody who is sort of thinking whether they should or whether they shouldn't?
Obviously, Mick, there's a price and everything. And I have to say to people, at the start, I was like, okay, can we afford this? And it's not about the price. I was like, because it was during COVID, I was like, can we do this? And I was like, do you know what? We will make it work if we put our mindset to it. And we have. And if you want to push, if someone's out there listening to me, I'm not from Australia, I'm from Ireland. And
we wouldn't have picked that up had you not said anything.
But I don't think any of my friends back home would ever get coached, because we think that we'll figure it out our own way. And I had people in your group that text me going, Andy, you're very lucky to be in this group, that you're so young in the building game and you're learning from all of us. So without that alone, myself and Louise puts 2 hours every day into momentum calls, and we do that 4 times a week, and we do try that. So we're definitely doing 6 to 8 hours on ourselves in that, learning from everyone. And then myself and Louise does a nighttime. We do some other self-development stuff. And some people just go, I haven't got the time for that. But if you haven't got the time for it, that means you don't want to grow the business. And that's fair enough. If you want to make a small wage and stuff like this, that's all good. But if you want time, myself and Louise don't work weekends now. I definitely haven't worked a Saturday in the last few months, because I value my time with my family now. Family time is first, and I work Monday to Friday. And before, I used to work the Saturdays. I tend not to do them now, because I was like, okay, let's go hard from Monday to Friday and let's enjoy family time. 2021 could be a different story if someone sees me out, because we could be busy. But we're building the process now in the business. So it's going to be hopefully systemized in a few years, that we can actually go, okay, we can take a holiday here. Someone else can actually run the business for us. So that's our end goal. It's is to go off on holidays a few times a year and spend time with the family, and hopefully have the best workers working for Perway, that it's going to run itself. So it's going to take, it's not going to happen overnight. We're building the process as we go, as you know, Mick. But and we're trying to teach all our tradies and subbies. And what we're learning now, guys, is we're teaching all our subbies. We brought them for breakfast there a few weeks ago, and we're learning this course. We're teaching them, because why not? Don't be selfish. Teach everyone else what you're learning, and we can see it already. The tradies are loving it, because they're in the same boat. They're on their own, one-man band, and they're learning from us, which is great.
We've had the cameras rolling just in case Mick said something worthwhile. Great news. It happened this week. So let's check out this week's What'd I Say?
There's 2 things to consider. Instead of trying to figure out what your content should be about, it should always be about your problem, solution, result. You just repeat. It might take a different form of a Q&A or a story lesson offer or a win-lose or whatever it might be, the different approach, rant, but that's what it's all about. But how you come up with the wording that you use and all that sort of stuff. I learnt this really great process in the intensive that I was just amazed about how it changed how your brain worked. And when you're stuck and you're trying to figure out how to say something and it's really frustrating, going through this process really opened up the pathways. And just to share one thing that was kind of a blinding flash of the obvious, but you know what blinding flashes of the obvious are like. They're right in front of you and you don't see them until you see them, and then you go, no, well, that makes sense. And that is when we try to create a video flow or some written content or something like that, we try to create the finished product at the start. Like we go, what can I say? And you try and sort of edit it as you go. And the blinding flash of the obvious is right brain is creativity and editing is logic and it's left brain. So we actually need to split this process in half, and we go through this process, which we'll be doing in the intensive, to get your right brain activated, and it creates creativity and imagination, and it allows to get some really good stuff on paper, and then you put it away. And then you'll come back to it either later in the day or another day, and you'll come back to it with a left brain approach. So you then edit it. But if you're trying to do these things at once, which I've always tried to do, everyone else tries to do, you're basically trying to tap into right brain, then left brain, then right brain, left brain, and you can't do it. Like, nobody can do that. You don't ever really use both sides of your brain at once. It's like you're either in flow of creativity or you're in system mode and logic mode. So we need to do the creativity, go away, leave it, in a drawer for a few hours or a day, come back to it with the specific focus of left brain sorting this out, following these rules. And I was like in a 30-minute session, I was blown away with what I ended up with. Like I was impressed with myself to be able to get the volume and the quality of it in such a short amount of time. So that's a bit of what I learned. Q&A time. Guess what one of the most common questions I get asked, and quite often I get asked it through Facebook or something like that. What does it cost? What does coaching cost? The answer to that is it just depends. It depends on where you are, what you need, and all of that. But I was reading about this from another coach the other day, and I think their answer was really profound. And this other coach said there are 3 costs involved with coaching. The first one is the cost of doing nothing. The benefit of doing nothing is you certainly save the money that you would have invested into a coaching program. But the cost of doing nothing is a massive amount of time and financial loss potentially. Simply because, as I said through the interview with Andy, the builder's main function and the builder's main job is to run the building business. Trying to find ideas and processes and tools and techniques and tips that actually work for a builder is a full-time job. And I know this because that is the full-time job that I do. And there is a lot of shit. There is a lot of crap out there that you've got to mine to try and get to the gold. I've been doing this for almost 35 years. And so I've done a lot of mining, and I know I've had to move a lot of dirt to get to the gold. And if you think that you can do that whilst running your business as well, I'm afraid you're going to be sadly disappointed. So the cost of doing nothing is the big one. The second cost is doing it easy. And that is jumping onto a course, and it might be a course like our Blueprint program, and trying to do it in a convenient way. One of the most profound bits of philosophy I've ever been taught about this came from an Amway seminar of all things. Hands up, who's ever been to an Amway seminar? If you're old enough, someone would have got a whiteboard out at some stage and said, hey, I've got a business opportunity for you. So not so much these days. But I was listening to this lady who was an Amway legend in some way. And she basically said, success is built on your inconvenience, not your convenience. And I've thought about that over the years, and I see it happening all of the time. In fact, when I give people something, some guidance with, here's how to do something and it will take a lot less time. even when they get that, they try to go, well, what's the short way of implementing that? How can I truncate that so I can take it so it's a lot quicker? And folks, if there was a quicker way of doing something, I would have given that to you in the first place. And as soon as I find a quicker way of doing something, I'm going to share it with you. So when you are implementing something, for instance, if you're involved in the blueprint program, don't try and do it in a convenient way. You've got to make it a priority and make sure that you commit to it. And that's the third cost. And the third cost is committing. So the second cost of doing it easy, you'll make some improvements and you'll get some financial benefits. You would more than likely quite effortlessly pay for the blueprint course. That happens all of the time. But to really get a fantastic return on your investment, you've got to commit. You've got to make it a priority. And you will find that as soon as you do that, you start to get a lot more time to do the things that you want to do. You start to get a lot more financial rewards. You're a lot more confident in how you manage your finances. But the cost of coaching it just depends on your level of commitment, where you are, where you want to go. I know that doesn't give you a price, but it is the best answer I can give you. We're not for everyone. But if you want to improve the quality of the clients that you get, if you want to build a better team, if you want to have more confidence in managing and building your financial base and get rid of the cash flow stress, there are so many things that you can do that will eliminate those problems. We may or we may not be the right people to support you through that process. But the one thing I will guarantee you, if you jump on a call with us, we will point you in the right direction, whether it's with us or not with us, because sometimes we're just not the right fit. But the next step is just to book a call to find out if we are. Love you to do that. If you're listening to the audio only version, you can just go to our website, buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au. There's a big orange button there you can hit to schedule a call. Or if you're watching the video version, you can just hit the button underneath the video. Fill out a little form, tell us a little bit about your business, and then schedule a call, a time and a day that suits you. It's only a real short call, so you don't need to wait a month to schedule in. It's like 5 to 7 minutes. You should be able to find that in the next couple of days. So we really look forward to talking to you. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Andy and this episode of Builders Business Success Podcast. I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Blackbelt. That's it for this episode. Bye for now.
Okay, that's the podcast. If you have a question or want to know how Mick can help with your building business, email your request to mick@buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au. Do it now.